Hey folks, David Stewart here. Should you pretend to be a trans black woman in order to get published? I have often suggested this, and I'm not all the way joking when I do so. Now, here's something you actually should do, which is to buy the Eternal Dream Christmas collection. It's available through the end of January 2025. Then it's gone forever. It has the first 10 chronological Eternal Dream books in it. So grab it if you're a new reader. There's a lot to dig into here. The ebook's only $9.99 and it has 10 books in it, so that's a pretty good value. But yes, why would I tell somebody to pretend to be a minority or pretend to be a woman or especially pretend to be a trans woman? Basically to move yourself higher on the progressive stack. Well, there was a mask-off moment on Twitter over the week. Now, there's been a bunch of these, but this is the latest one where an agent basically said the first thing she does when she gets a query letter from people is to Google them and see what their opinions are and see who they are, see what their identity is. And people are like, this is madness. It's like, it is what it is. Now, for those of you who aren't in the publishing business, here's how the agent system works. This is how traditional publishing works, really outside of very specific academic applications of publishing, which is you can't just publish a book. You can't send your manuscript to Tor or whatever publishing house and say, publish my book, and they say yay or nay. You have to find an agent to represent you. So you write this special form letter to agents and you query them and talk to them and say, I have a manuscript that I'd like to publish. They decide whether they want to represent it, and what they do is they take that and then they hand it to publishers to see if publishers want to publish it. So it's just an extra layer of filtering. Publishing houses could hire people to sift through, submitted manuscripts, but instead they do the agent system. So agents get a big commission, like 15% or something of everything that you as the author make from the publisher, which is actually fairly small royalties compared to being independent. We don't need to get too deep into that, but the point is they are paid based off of what money you make, kind of in this weird parasitic attachment, but they're really paid on behalf of the publishing company. So the publishing company doesn't have to have an employee. The agents work for the publishers, but not as employees, as free agents that don't get any benefits, and do all the work of sifting through manuscripts and saying yay or nay to various people that would like to publish their books in the traditional manner. So an agent having a mask off and saying, I'm going to discriminate against the people who query me, that got a lot of people kind of up in got their feathers ruffled a little bit. Truth is, this has been a case for a really long time. The publishing industry is overwhelmingly female, and a lot of people don't realize this. They're like, oh, they have this mindset, this feminist program mindset that women are super discriminated against in all kinds of industries. No, the publishing industry is absolutely dominated by women. Most publishers are women, like 70%. And then all of your various kinds of identity minorities, like sexual minorities or trans, that kind of stuff, that's all super overrepresented in publishing and as far as published authors go. So most published authors that are new are women. Most people publishing those books are women. Most agents are women. It's a very female-dominated industry, and it's also a super woke industry. It's probably the most woke industry I can think of as far as how politics end up shaking out. So yes, if you have a political opinion somewhere online, it could stop you from getting published, which is why I suggest maybe adopting a pseudonym. Now, it's actually very hard to hide your pseudonym from your agent because there's contracts and stuff, so you'd have to use like an LLC or something to really disguise your identity. The trans angle might work. You can be like, I don't want to, I go through an LLC so I'm not dead named or something like that. And you could probably get away with it. Have an AI generate a picture of you or something like that in order to use for the book. And when you do your pitch, you just mention your identity and how important this story matters to you as whatever your special progressive stack identity happens to be. And that would actually help you out a lot. So I'm not joking when I suggest that to people. It's the truth is the industry is really obsessed with identity, and having a oppressed identity is going to help you get attention from agents and publishers. It's going to help you get your manuscript to the top of the stack and to get noticed by them and to maybe even get published eventually. So I'm not joking about that part. The truth is this is very old, and it goes back way further than a lot of people realize. So Misha Burnett, who's an indie author, has written a bunch of books, including an Atlas of Bad Roads. He pointed out this literary hoax that I'd forgotten about. It was from a guy No, it's from a lady named Laura Albert. That's her real name, but it was J.T. Leroy. She wrote as a pseudonym. She had a hoax identity as a gay man. She even hired someone to pretend to be this person for like interviews and things like that. And these books that she wrote, these fake, they were fictional books. They became big hits and people were talking about them. And she got a movie deal, and she ended up getting sued by the movie industry once they found out she wasn't actually a gay man, she was just a woman, not because they thought the story was bad, they were only interested in it because they thought it was written by a gay man. It was completely about the identity of the author, and I don't know how the legality of that would shake out, but it certainly shows that they were only really interested in sort of who a person was on that progressive stack level and not what kind of work they did. So this is a real challenge that a lot of people will have to think about when they are looking at entering the publishing world and they are thinking about doing traditional publishing, because chances are you're brand new at this. You haven't published books before. You haven't published a lot of stories in magazines yet. That would be actually a great place to start, is to try to get stories into some of the magazines. There's not very many left. They're still around, so you do your best to like submit to them, and the competition's fierce, but you might be able to get one or two in, and then that will help you develop that. But given that you're unknown, it's kind of a good optionality if you can disguise your identity and have a pseudonym that will kind of be a layer between a publisher and an agent and who you really are and what your political opinions are, especially. That would be really beneficial. I'd say one of the biggest regrets I have in my internet life is being me, is being on camera and not being pseudonymous. My brand has always been me, and back when I started my channel in like 2013 or whatever, I never really thought about it being anyone besides me. I am who I am. I have my history. I have the things that I do. I have the words that I say. I'm just me. But that was before all of the unpleasantness in 2016. There was still this feeling that the internet was free in the early 2010s, and that you weren't going to get like fired for saying something on the internet. A lot of that changed. So I wish that I could have, I guess, hidden my identity a little bit better. It would have made a lot of things easier. But because I am who I am, I publish my stuff mostly independently these days, and that's wise. I can publish it and I can sell it to people. Yes, I make more royalties. I make much higher royalties being an independent. And if I wanted to get traditionally published, I'd really want to go with me as my brand, because I have a history of publishing books that are successful, that have reviews, that people have bought, that people have liked. So it would be easier to leverage into that relationship given that I have a history. But most of the people that are looking to query agents, they probably don't. They're probably new to this. They just haven't done it yet. So in that case, I do think that there's an advantage to being pseudonymous, to being anonymous, and at least trying to create some layer of identity between you and the public, if not you and your publisher and your agent, using an LLC or some other kind of like legal obfuscation of who you are in order to get it done. The truth is, you're going to face a lot of discrimination if you're male in the industry. You're going to face a lot of discrimination if you are politically to the right of Mao Zedong, right? You are going to face a lot of discrimination if you are white, especially. And that's because if you are a white, straight male, you're the bottom. You're like the worst of the worst as far as they're concerned. You're the patriarchy. You're someone that should be discriminated against at every opportunity. And this, by the way, this is a very profound difference, just as an aside before I close out the video. This is a very profound difference between moderate people and conservative people and like leftists, like extreme leftists, about how they operate in a given position. Most people, when they get a position, when they get a job, they feel that their job is to do the work competently and honestly. That's what they really prefer to do, right? It's, I have a job here, I need to do it well. The leftist gets a job or has a position and thinks of it as an opportunity to exercise political power over other people. That's why they're attracted to corporations, is corporations are a power base. They get into the HR department, you can decide who gets hired and who gets fired. That's an opportunity to correct the problems of the patriarchy. You get to be an agent, you get to decide at least in the first layer, who gets an opportunity to be published and who is a persona non grata. You get to contribute to that. It's an opportunity to exercise power rather than to do a good job. Doing a good job as an agent should mean finding the best possible manuscripts and connecting them with the publishers in the best position to publish those manuscripts and make money and build an audience. But that's clearly not what agents are really all about here. They're using their personal relationships with the publishers, people they went to college with or graduate school with in a lot of cases. They're going to use that as a way to bludgeon other people or to select winners according to their political beliefs. It works at the DMV too. Like if you give an extreme lefty a position at the DMV, they're going to view it as an opportunity to try to get one over on Whitey if possible. That's just what ends up happening. Okay, so just keep that in mind, and that's one of the problems with the industry is that the agents standing as a layer between the person who has a manuscript and the person who wants a publisher to publish it on their behalf. You have to figure out how to play that game. And the only other tip I guess I could give would be, instead of looking at the market, like writing to the market, you have to view the agent and the publisher as the market. What do they want? Like, what is the story that they want? Because they're picking the winners and the losers, and you write to them as a market rather than to write to the market, the people who read, as a market. Because indie fiction just writes for people what they want to read and what they're going to buy, without trying to kind of do some sort of top-down selection of what ought and ought not to be popular. That, by the way, is one of the reasons that people are like, why aren't men reading? Men are reading lots. They're just not reading. They're not reading the crap that's on the table at Barnes & Noble. They're buying things online to read. They're reading classics and that kind of stuff. They just are not interested in books that aren't written for them. That's all. Just like, why aren't men reading romance? They don't like it. Doesn't matter why, right? They're not bad for not liking romance. And I don't think women are wrong for like wanting to read a cozy romance or something. That's just something that different demographics like. But pretending that it's some sort of bad thing that men aren't buying books which aren't written to their tastes is silly as well. So have a good one, and I'll see you all next time. Grab The Eternal Dream Christmas, available now through the end of January. You can use your Amazon gift cards that you get for Christmas on it. It is very large. PS Vita for scale. Very big. In dimensions, and about 600 pages. There's 10 books worth of stuff in here. The first 10 Eternal Dream books, including The Bright Children, which has never been in print before. So you can be the first one to read that book. So have a great one, and I will see you all next time. Leaving your thoughts down below. I'd love to read them.